All right, so today we're working on a 2009 Mazda 6. All right, we had a problem with the wheel bearing on the hub here. It's making a grinding noise. It ruined the brakes, the pads, and all that stuff. It was worn on one side. The pad was beveled on one side. So we took it off of here. I got the tie rod end out. I had to take the upper control arm out right up there. Two 13mm bolts. You can see one here and one there. I had to take it out of there because the ball joint would not come down. The upper ball joint from the control arm wouldn't come out. So we got that done. I have it bungeed up there so it doesn't put no stress on the, and just a little bit, but it's all right. So we're gonna go grab it. I'll show you the bearing here. This is the bearing that got pressed out of it. It was destroyed. It's all gone. He said when he pushed that up there and got that out of there to put it in there, the bearings just, the ball bearings just came right out of there and it just separated. Let's pull this up a little bit so you can see. Here's another little piece of it right here. So it cracked right there, and that's how it was when it came out. The inner race right here, and this part. I wanted to check out the inner hub here, but I don't know if I can get it up without. Yeah, so that was the hub that came off of there. Flip it over real quick. You can see how much grease came out of there and the inner bearings, and he said that just separated. There's no the ball bearings in there or nothing, so that's gone. So yeah, it was destroyed. It's all gone. So we're gonna attempt to put the steering knuckle and everything back on here today, and we're gonna take it for a drive, and we're gonna see if it fixes it. But I put, like I said, I put a new tie rod end on there, and we put new sway bar bushings on there. We got brand new pads there, brand new rotor and everything. We're gonna put this back in here, and we're gonna go for a drive. I'll show you how to put everything back together, and then we're gonna test it out and see if it's fixed. So let's do it. All right, so here's the spindle. There's the upper control arm there. You can see the person that tried to take this off before to do this axle on the side messed this nut up, and I could not get it out. I tried heating it up, I tried everything. So I decided just to unbolt it from the upper control arm there, the two 13mm bolts. These still look good. These bushings, they're not moving, so they're good. I'm just gonna spray them up a little bit and put some grease in there. Just grease them up a little bit. Yeah, the ball joint's not bad. It was just this nut. The other way. It was just this nut right here. I could not get that out. But we got it in here. We got the new bearing in here and everything. And let's try to spin it. Nice. That sounds so nice compared to the last one. So that's all good to go. And then you got your two screws right here and right here for your rotor when your rotor goes back in. And then I need to cut this because this is the new nut, 32mm nut that goes on the axle. So we need to cut this. But let's put this back in and let's go for a drive. All right, so what we're gonna have to do here is these two studs right there are gonna have to go in right there and right there, and then you're gonna have to line up the axle and get that in. So I'm gonna do that real quick since it's just me doing this, and we'll put the bolts on there. There's the bolts, so we'll bolt it up from the bottom, and then we'll put the nut on there to hold the axle in place when it goes through the spindle, the hub, and then we'll bolt up the upper control arms right there, the 13mm bolts. We'll bolt that up, and then we'll start bolt everything else up. We got the this is your speed sensor right there, so I had to take that out of the hub but that actually fits in the back right there with that 10mm bolt there. And then you got another 10mm bolt right there, but that's for your bracket right there that bolts up that. But other than that, I think this should be pretty easy to get this in here. So I'll be right back. I'm gonna get this bottom piece in here, and then we'll bolt everything up, and I'll show you how to do this. Okay, so let's do it. All right, so you can see that I got it in there. I got that axle in there, and then I got those two on the bottom here. So we're gonna put this on here, and we're gonna hold that in place. Okay, we're just gonna snug it down. All right, and then these bolts right here go on the bottom. You don't have to undo this bottom bolt right here. This is a 25mm. So I thought I would need to separate this if this didn't separate from here and right here. Okay, so we're just gonna put these bolts on, just snug them down just to hold it in place. Once we get everything in place, before we put the tie rod in and everything, we're gonna bolt everything up here. Okay, so now you got a little bit of, should have undid this just a little bit. So you don't want the axle falling out, but we want enough to where we can pull. That sun's bright. Whew, jeez. So we want enough where we can pull the axle or the hub or the spindle, I mean, and pull it back to put the control arm bushings up here. And push it up here and push it up there, and then we'll be able to push it up and then put the bolts in. Okay, so we're gonna do that real quick, and we'll get this installed. All right, so you can see right up there, you can see how far that's off from the bushings down here, and we need to go up into that spot right there. So we need to pull it forward, push it up into there. Okay, so you got your upper control arm, that's gonna bolt right there and on the other side. Okay, so everything's good. This is kind of secured, so we should have a little bit of play from the axle pulling it out. And this is tight, well, not tight, but it's snug enough to where it's not gonna come off. Okay, and then we need to tighten this bottom 25mm, so you don't need to take this off unless you're doing this bottom ball joint here, the lower ball joint. Okay, so let's see if we can get this. So you got to push it, you got to pull it back, push it up, and that should go right up there like that. Okay, and then you got your bolt, which is going to go this way, and then one's going to go this way. So it's got a studded piece on the one side, so your bolt only goes this way. You can't get it this way. You can't mess this up. Okay, so we'll get back here, and your bolt goes right back here. So I'm gonna get this bolted up one side, get that stud in there, this one right here, now this bolt, and we're gonna snug this up just a little bit, and then we'll do the back side, and then we should be good, and we'll tighten everything up, and then we'll assemble everything else. Okay. All right, well, it took a little bit to try to get that out of there, or that in there. So what I got is the ratcheting wrench right here, and I have 13mm. So this was very easy to try to get this tightened up. All right, so put that on there, and very tight spot back here. You can't even fit a socket back here. So get this side tightened up. Make sure we're going the right way, right? Yeah, we're going up, so that's good. Okay, so that's all we need. We need to go up here and get this one tightened. I don't know, it's hard to try to get this torqued, because you can't really torque it because there's nothing in there. So you're just gonna have to get a big yank on it. And if you need a little extension to put down here, which I will do that just to make sure that it's tight. Okay, and that side's done. The other bolt is right there. Okay, so you can see. So we got the top 13mm bolts in the top. So now you got to do this one, and this one. This one's a 25, but we have to put everything else in here. So You see how it's moving with the, so we don't want that. All right, but this and this is a stationary bolt. So let's see what size it is. It is a 21. All right, so I got the tie rod end on. I got that tight, and I got the little cotter pin in here. So next, I'm gonna try to block the sun here. So you got two 10mm bolts right here, okay? So that's gonna go, your speed sensor is gonna go right in this hole, and you see right on that side, so it's just gonna fit right in there. And then you have a 10mm right there. So you just push this in and get this started, okay? So, all right, so we got that now. And we got the bracket right here, okay? So it sits right in that hole, right there. And then you have your other 10mm, and that goes right in there like this, okay? So there we go. And we'll screw that in there, and then we'll tighten those two things up right now. So let's tighten this up. Just get a little tight, because I know I'm using a 1/2 inch, but I'm only using one hand, okay? So that's good. All right, this is tight. So now we got to tighten these bottom ones, these 21mm and this 25mm, and then we need to tighten this axle up, okay? So once we get this axle on here, and then it's pretty much just the brakes and the brake pads and the rotors and stuff like that, okay? So let's get this done right here. All right, so let's take our 21. Yeah, so that's the 21. So now this won't move anymore. So we can do this, all right? And we'll get this. We'll get this on here. And we'll get this on here like this, all right? So now we can snug up these bolts. There's one. And then we'll have to get the torque wrench and torque these to specs. So I'll put the torque specs right up here for these, and this nut and the inner the outer tie rod end. I put the torque specs for that also. Up there, like I said, you can't torque those. Those are really hard to get, so you're just gonna have to get an extension on your wrench, 13mm, and kind of pull and try to get those tight as much as possible with a double wrench. All right, so let's get this 25 right here. Okay, so that's, yeah, so that's this one. So we're gonna get this one tightened up, and then we'll start bolting everything else up, okay? All right, so I got those torqued, and got my big breaker bar there, so I torqued them down, and I'm gonna go get the torque wrench and torque these and make sure they're torqued, but I got an extra click on them. All right, so we have brand new rotor to go on here, and we're gonna put the rotor on, and then put the nuts, the screws right here and right here. All right, so we got a brand new rotor on there. We got everything tightened. We got our little cotter pin in there. Everything's torqued. Bottoms are torqued. Got the speed sensor back in, so we're good there. So we just need the brakes, the bracket, the brake pads, and the caliper. And we should be good to go after that. We'll put the tire on, and then we'll give this thing a drive. So we'll, so this is just sometimes you have to take that impact wrench where you hit it with a hammer, but these were pretty easy to get out. So they just need to be snugged, because you got your rotor, you got your bracket on there, so they're not gonna come, it's not gonna come off. It just holds it in place. All right, so now we got to put our bracket, which is right there, okay? We got to put our bracket on. So this is your bracket right here. You can see it bolts in right there and right up top, and these are 17mm, I think they are. Yeah, are these 17 or 14? They're 17 17mm, so they'll bolt in right there and right there. So we'll get this bolted in, and then we'll finish the rest of this and bolt this caliper up, put the tire on, and we should be good to go. So we'll get this in, and then we'll put the brake pads and caliper on. All right, so we got everything back on. Everything's tightened, everything's torqued. We got the jack stands out from underneath. Okay, lower down. Good to go. So let's go for a drive and let's see if it makes that noise. Let's do it. All right, so we're in the 2009 Mazda 6. We're gonna listen for the noise. Besides my seatbelt. Oh my goodness, that is so much better. No noise at all. Listen to this. No grinding, no nothing. The noise is gone. Yes. Oh, that's what it was the wheel bearing. Wheel bearing was freaking shot. So, all right, subscribe to JC Motor Garage for more tips, more videos on how to fix your car. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on JC Motor Garage.